Hello patrons, this is Gayle, and I'm finally taking the time, and I had to take the time, I don't really have the time, but hopefully I can get this tutorial done for you guys. I haven't done one in a while, and I have, excuse me, I have got fish on the brain. I don't mean to bring Fun Stamper's Journey into this, but their new stamp set that's coming out in the spring, they opened it up to some of us, or to anybody that wanted to order it early, and I've ordered it early, but all that I've seen, there's lots of fish and bubbles and waves and water, and I'm a beach person. I just love the beach. I don't like sitting out in the sun and baking kind of beach. I like walking on the beach when it's not really hot. That's why I go, you know, in the fall with my sister. We go in September. And it's just a good time to go. The temperature is like 70 to 75, and at night it's still cool, you know, warm enough you don't have to wear a jacket, or maybe sometimes maybe a light sweater. But anyway, so I've got fish on the brain right now. And then I remembered going to Shrinemont one year, and Kim Karinga was there from California, and she was making little tropical fish. So I looked her up, and I looked at a couple of her pictures, and I think I remember enough from what she was showing us that I could maybe do some little tropical fish for you, or at least I hope I can. So the first thing you need to do is pick your colors, and I picked a cobalt blue, purple, orange, and green. And I made Skinner blends. I've also picked out a turquoise, but I haven't done that Skinner blend yet. I made Skinner blends, and then I made a Skinner blend log. And I just felt like I needed to show you guys how to do that when I make the last Skinner blend. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera off, and when I turn it back on, I'm going to be over my pasta machine. And hopefully I can get it at an angle where everybody can see what I'm doing. My pasta machine sits right here, sits right there to my right. And it's at an angle so that I can work on it when I just turn in my chair. So I don't know how it's going to work. I may have to film it at a slight angle, but I never do show you what I'm doing over at my pasta machine, so I thought I would take the opportunity, since I'm trying to do this, you know, for you guys, to show you how I do my Skinner blends over on the pasta machine. Now, as a result, you're going to lose what I do. I should have done left two, but I didn't, to make the Skinner blend. But, well, actually, maybe I'll do that part first. Let me show you the beginning. I'm just going to slice, this is just one section of clay, of a Primo clay, and this is the turquoise. And I usually cut them into 4 sections. And then this is just the white. Now this part you won't see, but I usually just run it through the pasta machine. And because I'm using such a small quantity of clay, I'm going to run it through on the number 3. And maybe I ought to roll this. This turquoise is old clay. It was in the old Primo packaging, so I don't know how it's going to roll at a thin setting. So let me just roll it a little bit with my roller, just to kind of start the warming process. And it just makes it a little bit easier sometimes to get it through the pasta machine. If you have clay that when you put it through the pasta machine it just crumbles, it means that it needs to be warmed up a little bit before you put it in there because it's been sitting for a while. So hopefully this will work. I am on the number 3. And we will see how this works. Alright, that it all held together, but I really should do the white first. I didn't, and I know the white is fresh because it's new clay. But let me run this through first, just so I don't mess up my white. And what I do is as I'm going through the pasta machine, I stack them and then go through again, and then I add the next. See, a piece of blue fell out. There's a lot of blue just from that little bit. Anyway, stack that. And I've got a little bit more white here that I trimmed off another blend. I'll just stick that in there just so it'll be even. I'm going to run this through a couple of times until I get a solid rectangular sheet. That's good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be very well conditioned because it's going to condition itself as you're going through the pasta machine. Now I might roll this again just because it was still flaking a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing with this as I did with the white. Just fold it and put it through again. At least until it starts to hold together. This is doing well now. And one more time and I think it'll make a square. Actually went a little bit beyond a square, but that's alright. So now what I do is, and I'll start with the white. And you know, it used to be when I made Skinner blends, I was so precise. And everything had to be perfect. And I've just learned it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to show you a rough version of a Skinner blend. I'm just going to roll this over. And the only thing I'm going to trim is just this extra that's here on the end. I'm going to leave everything else. It wasn't a perfect square. It's not going to be a perfect triangle. But let me form this into a triangle. And I'm not going to, well, the only thing I'm going to trim off of this is this little ragged piece right there. But I'm going to stick it here on the side where it was ragged in the other direction. And what I'm going to do is take these two pieces and put them together and stagger it. When I say stagger, I want this blue sitting at, let me do it straight so you can see what I'm talking about. It might make better sense. I'm going to make a rectangle, but I want blue to not have any white on it there. And I want white to not have any blue on it there. So I'm going to cut that point off, and I'm just going to stick it up in that little hole. It doesn't really matter, but since the hole is there. And then what I'm going to do is press these edges together. If you don't get your two colors pressed together, then when you put it through the pasta machine, it's going to split like this. And then you wonder, what am I going to do? Even though you can still use it, you just have to play with it a little bit more. So I think that's going to be pretty good. Now I'm going to turn the camera off, and when it comes back on, hopefully it will be over my pasta machine. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and hopefully you can see my setup here. I have not moved my chair. I usually work right here. You know, you can see my hand. This is where I work, and all I do is I turn a little bit and use, and here's my pasta machine. Now, one thing that I've shown you before is I have made these little magnets. These were some pretty strong bar magnets. And what I did is I took them and I covered them in scrap clay. You can see it's just scrap. I used my acrylic roller to roll a round section in the clay. And then I baked it. Now, when I want to keep my clay, like my clay machine is a little over 5.5 inches wide. But I don't, if you don't put some kind of control in here, every time you run your clay through, it's going to get wider and wider and wider. It's just the nature of the game. So what I did is I put this here on the side so that let me see how much it takes it down to 3.5 inches. I also have this little magnetic ruler that I got from Dan Cormier. It sits on here so I can, look at width. So this, takes about 2 inches off. And it makes it easier because now, let me bring my clay over here. See, my clay is going to fit in there, and it's only going to go maybe another 1/8 of an inch, not even 1/4 of an inch more. And it just helps to keep your clay narrower so that you have a longer piece to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do this. Oh, while I'm showing you my little tips and tricks, I also make this little thing. It's just a piece of cardstock that I folded the corners and stapled, and it's the width of my pasta machine, and I take that and I slide it up underneath, and as you can see, it catches all of my little pieces that drop out of the pasta machine, because I was spending a lot of time cleaning clay off of my desk, and this has really helped a lot. So I'm going to turn the motor on. This is my motor. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to run this through the pasta machine, and I may stop it if it gets too loud and I want to say something, but sorry for the noise. Now let me just tell you now, see how that has gone together? If I had not pushed these together, it would have split right through here, and this piece would have gone that way, and that piece would have gone that way. And that's what you try to avoid. And at this point, all you do is fold your blend in half, keep your white together, and keep your blue together. Don't ever fold it the other way or you'll totally mess up your blend. And just continue to roll it through. I'll do it a couple times, and I have something else I want to show you. Okay, I don't know if you noticed or not, but as I folded my piece, one time I would put the white over here next to the magnet and roll it through. Then the next time I rolled it, I would put the blue. And that's just to try to keep this edge as straight as you can, because most pasta machines, the rollers are not absolutely perfectly perpendicular. There's a very, very slight change, and if you keep running it through in the same direction, you'll get these long tongues on one side. And if you've ever wondered where they come from, that's one of the reasons. There are other reasons that cause that tongue, but let me also show you now. I'm beginning to get some what I call ugly side. This is, to me, an ugly side. That one looks pretty good. So I'm going to fold the ugly side in and keep the nice side on the outside. And let me go ahead and do this a few more times. Now see how this is beginning to blend? I don't think my light is very good over here. I don't know where a good place for my light is working over here. But anyway, there's another picture of the blend. And I'm going to keep on going until this gets, you know, totally blended. Now this seemed to blend fairly quickly, which I'm not really sure why. But when you get to this point, see we do have a little bit of a tongue up here. Just stretch a little bit. You don't have to stretch a lot, but just stretch a little bit on either side just to minimize that. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it in. I'm going to fold it into thirds, trying to keep the white white. And then I'm going to fold that over. So now we have a 3-layered sandwich. And this is still on a number 3. And what I'm going to do now is run it through with the white going first. And you see how long that made that. So we're going to just leave it the way it is, but I'm going to go down 2 notches to a number 5 and run it through again. Notice again it's longer, and this last time it's going to be even longer because I'm going down 2 more notches to a number 7. Okay, so there's my long ribbon now. And I am going to turn the camera back off and go back over my work surface. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back over here to my work surface. And just clean that off a little bit. So now here is my long ribbon of clay, and I'm going to leave it kind of hanging over my pasta machine while I lay the white end on the table. Now what I did this time, I did something a little different. I picked up the very end, and rather than making that even, I folded it over. Because it's very, very thin, I think you can do that without any issues. So that way I don't lose any of my white. So just make sure there's no air trapped in there. Then I take my finger and I just gently push a little roll. Till it starts to roll. And then I just use an acrylic block. Let me move this white out of the way. I don't think I'll need any more of that. And just pick this up and move it a little bit. Push the ends in as you roll. But pressing with the acrylic block helps to keep it nice and tight. Well, looks like a piece of cat hair managed to get in my clay. There you go. No problem. Let me just straighten this up a little bit, straighten the ends. And you'll get to a point where you can use your fingers instead of the acrylic block. And as you roll it, press the ends in and just pay special attention that you're rolling it tight. And I've got a little sideways on this one, so I need to straighten it back up. I'm doing this from the side so I could hold my clay. I normally roll it this way, but from the side it's kind of hard to tell when I'm straying to the side. I'm watching this end. This end looks okay. And again, because it's so thin, you can roll all the way up to the end. Now you can see on this side I've got some extra blue. I'm just going to trim that off. I'm not concerned about the rest of it yet. This side is fine. Press the ends in, and then we're going to roll it. And we're going to pull on it. And roll some more. Just be sure when you're rolling that you're pressing in the middle and then roll outwards, so that if there's any air trapped inside, you'll roll it out. It also helps keep your ends a little bit more solid. But it's best to do this while it is, as soon as you finish rolling it up, because the clay is all warmed up and it's all the same temperature. Now let me just pull it a little bit. Just work from the center out. Once it gets long enough, you can do this. And just pull. And then this is where this end I'm going to leave because it looks fine. This end is a little bit messed up. So you just cut down to where it looks okay. There's still a little bit of space in there. There, that's solid now. And there are my 4 starter canes. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the eye. And I took a little bit of black and rolled it into a little snake. And then I cut a little piece of yellow. And let me see, there we go. Just cut the snake off to the same length as the yellow. And you want to wrap this, and this yellow is also rolled in a number 3. Because we are going to reduce this. It's been sitting, so it's cracking a little, so I just pinch it back together. It will be fine. Again, this is old clay. This is zinc yellow, I believe. And just trim it off. And see where the little cracks are? I'm just going to put those back together and re-warm the clay. This has been sitting here for a while. And then as you roll it, it's going to smooth over those little cracks. But I'm not finished there. I'm going to put another layer of black on the outside of this one. Now we'll cut a straight line. A little piece of yellow off before I cut my black. This side I'm going to have to trim, so I'm not that worried about it. And let me roll the black around the yellow. And I've shown you this before. You roll until the clay meets, then roll it back, and it leaves a line. And you cut on that line, and it meets perfectly. So now we're going to reduce this because we don't want great big fish eyes. We want our eyes to be a little bit smaller. And I'm also going to cut this in half. I'm going to cut these in half also. I'm going to save half because we could put together different designs. Let me show you this, even though we're probably going to go a little bit smaller. But there's the eye. Because what we're going to do is we're going to pick a color for the head. And I think I'm going to make the head orange. So I think I'm just going to cut maybe a third of this. So if this is the head, and that's the eye, we've got to look to see, yeah, I think that'll probably be a good size. Just smooth it out a little bit. And again, you can cut it, because our cane's only going to be this long. And I think I'm going to roll this with the acrylic block just to get it all the same width. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this up. Well, it's not cut very straight. Must have been the end. I'm going to set this up on end. And I'm going to cut it right, let's see, cut it right down the middle. Now I do believe that my small acrylic rod or maybe not, maybe the next size. That's too big and that's too little, so I'm going to use the little one and we'll just rock it. I'm going to open this up, and right in the white part, and hold it in your hands because you don't want to make it not round. Just press in with something. You can use a skewer, anything that you've got, a paintbrush handle, anything that you've got that's about the same size as your eye, and press it in, but hold it in your hand, because if you press this on the ground, on the table, this would flatten out. You don't want it to be flat, although we are going to pinch it in a little while. And let's rock it back and forth to make this a little bit bigger. Make this one a little bit bigger. That one didn't go in very far. Doesn't look like. And then lay the eye down in that little channel. And you can see this little bit of clay that I used. We can make a lot of fishes. So there. So we've put that in, and we're just going to close this up. And just try to get these seams back together. And what I like to do is look and see, it looks like this is just slightly off center, so I'm going to take this side and just pinch it. And let me just cut a piece off the end so you can see what it looks like. Alright, so this is going to be the head of our fish. May not need to keep it as pointed, but that's going to be the head of our fish. So now we need to decide what we want to be the body. And since I used this, oh, I didn't show you this. This cane, it's a Skinner blend, but I use green and yellow instead of green and white, because I'm going to use that also. While I'm thinking, I think I'll use the purple for the body. Yeah, I think the purple will work well for the body. So let me cut a piece of the purple, about the same length as the head. Keep all my eyes up there together, and we're going to make this green and yellow Skinner blend a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to stretch it a little bit. Try to even up this end. And cut this approximately the same length as that. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to pinch this into a teardrop shape. And I'm going to cut in in two places on this side. Whoops, not too far. And open it up and put the pointed end of your teardrop in there. This is where you see how much I fumble. And then we do another one. Just make it long and skinny and then pinch one side. I'm going to pinch the whole thing. I'm going to come in this other slit that we did and put the green and yellow in there. And then slice it off even. And then you slice in the middle of the other side and put this in from the top. And they may overlap a little bit, but that's okay. But you'll see now there's some color to our fish body. And we'll put that alongside our fish head. It's gotten a little bit longer. Actually, the fish head can get a little bit longer because the head doesn't need to be quite so big. I think I'm going to put it that way. Let's see. I think I want the two stripes on the top. Let me just cut this side so we can see what we're working with. And I may take a little piece of yellow that I happen to have here. Just to put a separator. This wasn't planned. But let's just put a little separator between the head and the body. And you can trim it off however you like it. Because I don't want a lot of yellow, but just enough to add a little bit of separation. Okay, we just kind of push it in to kind of match. Doesn't look like much of a fish, does it? But we're going to set it up like this, and this is going to be our fish. Now we can do several things. First, let's make a tail. We need to decide what we want to do for a tail. We can use any of the colors we've already used, or we could use one of the blues. let's use the blue. And again, I'm going to try to keep all my scraps in one place. Let me warm it up a little bit first. But I'm going to cut off a piece and make this smaller. And hopefully this will look like a fish when we finish. I know it's a little doubtful now. But you just take one piece at a time. And I think what I'm going to do with this one, let me cut these ends off. We need to make this really skinny because we'll turn this into the tail. And see, again, look how much of this we've got left, and we're almost finished with our fish. When I say almost finished, we're not almost finished, but the main part. We need to make some fins. Cut that end off, cut that end off. I'm going to cut this in half. And I'm going to pinch each half into a teardrop. Or a triangle, whatever this ends up being. I think I'll do it as a triangle. Let me press it down onto the work surface and make it a little triangle. And I'll do the same thing with this one. Instead of a teardrop, I'll just make it a little triangle. And let's see. Let's put this one down this way. Actually, this got to be long enough. I can use the same one for both sides of the tail. And you can do whatever you want with this. If I pinch it together, it looks like a backwards tail, doesn't it? So let me put it back on this way. There. How's that for a tail? Okay, right now I need to take a little break. I need to go let my dogs out. They're bugging me to go outside. And then I need to go to the barn and take care of my daughter's horse. And when I come back, we will finish making our little fish. And I promise you, it will look like a fish when we're finished. So I will be back shortly. I changed my mind. My dogs can wait another minute. They wouldn't like it if they heard me say that. I took the head off because the head was bothering me. And I think what I want to do is round this inside part a little bit so it will hug the body a little bit better. I kind of like that a little bit better, the way it hugs the body instead of kind of sticking out on the end. Still might be a little bit big. But I promise, now I'm going to go take care of my dogs. Sorry about that. Be back in a little bit. All of my chores have been done. I've gone to the barn and cleaned 2 stalls. I ran by the store. I came home and I let my dogs out, and I have even taken a nap. So I am in good shape. Well, I say I'm in good shape. I came in here to start working on my fish again and was reaching up to get something and knocked 2 storage cabinets down that had a lot of texture pieces in it. And I'm still finding them, but stuff went everywhere. So, you know, I've got a little piece of texture, you know, like this. And what else did I find since I put it away? I've got this, which is like a butterfly wing. It's just a plastic piece. This is a metal piece that's got a flower on it. I keep things like this in a box. And obviously, it was a little, the weight was not distributed correctly. So anyway, I came back and I looked at my fish, and I didn't particularly care for it. I think the head is too big for the body. So I decided, I also pulled the tail off. I didn't like the tail. I'm going to trim off just a little bit of this head. I don't want to go down to where I'm cutting anything other than the orange. I don't want to cut the white. And just go trim this off just a little bit. Well, that doesn't look too bad right there. And round this off. And that's the thing when you're making a cane, is sometimes you look at it and you think it looks okay, and then you leave it and come back and you go, why did I do that? But I think this is a better proportion. And I may even leave that little flat place right there, because I also came across, well, I knew I had it, I didn't come across it, but I had this little piece of blush that I was going to use in a Skinner blend, but I didn't have an open package. Matter of fact, I don't know that I have anymore. This might be the end of it, so I may have to order some. But I decided I was going to make lips. My little fish, I like to have lips. And I don't know that that's the way that Kim Karinga would have done it. But that's the way I'm going to do it. You can do it any way you want. You don't have to put the lips on, and I may find after I put these on here that I'm not going to like them either. But if you take just a little piece of pink, and just mash it on there, and then take something like a tool. This one has a nice pointed end on it, and excuse me if my hair gets in the way, but I need to kind of look on top and just kind of press down in the middle. I made my line. Now I'm going to go back and press it in just a little bit further. But now he's got lips. I say he. And I also took the tail off because I wasn't happy with the tail. And I'm thinking this should be fatter. But attached to the head, unless I take it apart, there's not much I can do to make that fatter, which is why I made the head a little bit smaller. And I'm going to go back, and I'm still going to use my blue and white, And I'm still going to use the triangle shape, but I just wasn't happy with the way it looked. So I'm going to lay this triangle. I'm going to lay these triangles sort of next to each other. But I'm not going to press them together. And that's what I did with the others. I pressed them together and it kind of lost the shape. So there, we've got lips and a tail. Now we need to give it a fin. I think what I'm going to do is, I could do several things. I've got pink on there now. Let's just make some little snakes of the colors that we've got. There's some pink. So I went ahead and I rolled out and cut little ropes of each of the colors that I used, except for the white. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay the little fishy on his side. Decided that was going to be the top. And I'm just going to start laying little snakes beside each other because he's a colorful little fish. And I do believe the top fin is a little bit larger than the bottom fin, so I'm going to put 5 along there. And then I'm just going to build from there. I didn't put a purple because it would be next to purple, so let me put a purple in there. So that's 2, 3, 4. Then I'll put 3. Then I'll do 2. And I don't think I'll put 1 on top because that's going to be plenty. And let me just cut off these ragged edges so you can see what this is going to look like. Didn't cut all of them. And you can round this off. It might be that I need another one right along here. Let me put another yellow one over there because it looks like a lot of dark. There you go, and you just press it down because you want it to be, you don't want it to be too tall. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And this one is going to be a little bit maybe longer but skinnier, if that made any sense at all. I'll try to cut these off as I use them. Let's see, pink, blue, green. Let's do a green one. And then start building this one by stacking. And this is not a very realistic fish, in case you haven't guessed that yet. I like whimsical fish. Maybe one more to separate these blues. So I think I will use the yellow. So that's one way of doing your fins. I like this because it's colorful. And that is basically your fish. Now we can do a couple of things. We can slice it just the way it is. And my lips kind of got mashed in together. But we could slice it just the way it is and make little charms. I would slice it fairly thick. See, there would be a charm. You could put a little hole right here and hang a bunch of them from a bracelet. Or you could make earrings. Or we could pack this with translucent and reduce it. So let's do that. Let's say I buy my translucent by the pound, like this. So I knew I had some. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice off some. And I'm going to condition it. And then we will pack our cane. Okay, set this aside. Get rid of all these little pieces. Alright, now I am not going to make you watch me condition translucent clay. It is not very entertaining. So I'm going to condition this clay and then I'll be back. Okay, I've got my clay, my translucent clay conditioned. It's rolled out on the #1 setting on my pasta machine, which is the thickest setting. Or actually it's the 0. And I'm going to cut little pieces and use those to fill in some of the spaces. The object in packing this cane is going to first off make it sort of round so we can reduce it. But also to keep these pieces from moving. So I'm going to, like, this is square, it's not round, but I'm going to tuck a corner down in this little corner here. And you see where I tucked that so that that doesn't lose its shape. And I'm going to continue to do that all the way around the fin so that that doesn't move. When we get to the tail, we need to make a little triangle to go down in that triangle space of the tail. So I'm going to still take these square ones and I'm just going to build up on what we've already done. Another thing with them being square is you don't trap as much air. Now there's a progress there. And I'm going to go on to the other side and I'm at least going to fill in around this tail so I can do that, and then the rest will probably be fast forwarded, because this could take a while. Anyway, so let me cut a piece a little bit wider, maybe twice as wide as the others, and actually I'm going to fold it in half. And just make sure there's no air in it. And then just start pinching into a triangle. You see the little triangle? Now I'm going to put the pointed end of the triangle down in there between the two tail fins. See, like that. And then I can start filling in again with the little squares on either side. Because you've got these little gaps, like right here, I'll fill that in so that we make this side round. Okay, now as you can see, I've got this totally surrounded with translucent, and most of the little dips and curves have been filled in. It's not exactly round yet, but I'm going to now start using I used a straight piece of clay here instead of the little pieces because that was pretty straight. And what I'm going to do now is cut off a piece. Let me make a straight edge over here, because you never know what you're going to end up using. And I'm just going to start there to build that up a little bit and just go around. Another thing I did is I did compress this a little bit just to kind of fill in any of the little gaps. But you can see how this is going to just fit around the outside, and we will trim it, because you don't want a lot of excess on the edges. And we'll compress that, and then we'll see places that we need to fill in. So let me cut another piece, cut all the ragged edges off. I think I will cut it this way. If it helps to lay the cane on here to cut it, that's fine. Just square off your edges. And what you want to do is try to get an even layer of translucent around the cane. And this turned out almost perfect. Just had that much too much on it. And you see I overlapped here because that needed to be built up a little bit. One good thing about translucent clay is it's pretty sticky after it is conditioned, and it will mold into these little spaces. Just keep pressing. Now in order to make this round, you see we need to add some over here. So what I'm going to do, first off, I'm going to cut me a slice, but I'm going to make it a little bit thinner. I'm going to roll this. Let me see what a number 3 looks like. I think that might work, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down What side am I working on? This side. I'm going to come down in that gap where I need the extra clay. Then I'm just going to fold it. And then fold it back again. And come down, press that flat. And I'll just wrap this around to where I meet the other clay, which is like right there. And press to fill in those little spaces. Because the more round you get this, the easier it's going to be to reduce. And I'm going to just put this up here, again trying to make it round. Got lots of little pieces that I've pinched and trimmed off, but it will not go to waste. Looks like I'm going to use this. This was probably equal to about a full package of a 2-ounce package of translucent. If you're wondering how much you might need, I would start with the full package and have another one handy in case you need it. Now I'm going to build this up down here on the bottom. I'm going to come over here to where it bends the corner. And again, I'm going to fold it back. And I'll do another one. And I'm just going to cut this off and round those edges. Now this is not round, but it's close. At least it's round enough now that we can start squeezing it. And squeeze in the middle all the way around, because what we're going to do is we're going to start reducing it. And see, I'm making like a little waistline here. And while I'm doing this, this is also making the cane come out a little bit. And again, as we were doing this and I kept squeezing, it was also to keep the colored cane in the middle a warmer temperature, because you can see how soft the translucent is. So I'm going to go back to pressing in the middle. As much as I hate to do this, I have to go feed my dogs. See, my schedule, there's so much that goes on that it's hard for me to find one time that I can sit down and clay. So that's why my tutorials are done in sections sometimes. So I'm going to take a break. I really don't want to leave this because I don't want it to get cool. But I have a way of doing that too. It's called wrap it and put it in the bra. Which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take it and wrap it in one of my plastic sheets. Going to tuck it in my bra, and I will be back when I'm finished with the dogs. Okay, I'm back. And my cane is still nice and warm. I wasn't kidding earlier when I said in other videos I've said put it in your bra, and this has made everything still really nice and soft. So now I'm going to start rolling, which is why you want it as round as it can be, and tug a little bit and roll. And just pull on these ends, because you try not to lose any ends if you can help it. This might also be a good time for me to put my end caps on. There. Should be on there, and I can squeeze and not worry about losing too much of the ends, and still give me an idea of what's going on in there. You can see this has already gotten a lot. It's probably twice as long as it was when we started. So the fish inside are going to be smaller. The thing is, what is it going to look like? If you look at the ends, they look a little questionable. We will see. Give it another waistline, and it'll work its way up to each end. And push it up towards the end. And let's just do it there. I'm anxious to see if I've killed the poor little fish. There we go. There's our little fish. Now, at this point, it's probably a good idea to trim off some of this translucent. But just trim little pieces of the translucent off. And try not to trim the fish off. It just shows that the fish is not real even all the way through the cane. I lucked out there. There. This will make it a little bit easier to handle. And then you can make slices. And this is squishing a little as I cut it because it is so warm. You can always pull them out. Try cutting it from different angles as you do this. Of course, I could use a sharper blade, and that would help too. But then you can bake these, and you can hang them on a bracelet. I was afraid to cut too close there. But that's what you can do. You can do this. You can leave it. You can leave all that translucent around it if you want. It didn't look like that when I was packing it. Didn't look like it was that much, but it looks like the cane reduced quite a bit inside the translucent. But you can take this and slice it very, very thin, and then you can, like when it's sliced like this, if this were a thin slice, you could go around and trim the translucent off if you want. And that's all I would do. Then put it, just pretend like this is very thin, and you could lay this on a background and you would have fish swimming around on your background. So I hope you like that. Unfortunately, you got a taste of what it's like in my life since I was trying to do so many things, and this was a long video. But you get to see just what it's like in my life. Always trying to find time to clay, which is a shame because that's what I want to do is clay. But I was just trimming, that was a little bit of orange on that. But look at all of this we've got left. And these are the eye canes we've got left. And that's the pink that we've got left. So look at all the number of fish that we could do, and you could experiment. You could take translucent and put a little bit of blue alcohol ink in it and mix it up, and you would get, instead of this clear translucent, you would get a blue translucent, which would look like the ocean around it. So there's lots of different things you can do. You could, like I said, you can make it like this. You can make it smaller. If you wanted, this is a pretty big for a charm, but it would be nice for a pendant. But you could make it a little bit smaller and make different colors. Make this one maybe blue and purple. Or let's see, let's put a purple head and blue and green in the middle and a tail, and do different colors. And then can you imagine just a bunch of these? You know, a bunch hanging from a charm bracelet? Wouldn't that be cute? But anyway, this is my fish cane, and this is all the translucent that was left. So you see there's a lot of translucent left. Even though we needed it when we were packing it, then as it reduced, we were able to do away with it. So hope you like that. I apologize for all the interruptions. And I will be back soon with a regular polymer clay video. And I will see you then. Bye-bye.